audience wishes to speak to an item on the agenda, there are speaker request forms to the left of the dais. Please fill out the request with the agenda number of the item you wish to speak to and hand it to the secretary. At this time, we would like to ask that if any member of the audience has a cell phone or other. I think I lost my microphone. If any member of the audience has a cell phone or other electronic device, that you either turn it off or turn the ringer to silent. If you need to take a call, please step out to the hallway so the meeting is not disrupted. The public hearing on item number 1 is hereby opened. Karen made the motion to approve the Zoning Board of Adjustment minutes. Mike seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Item 2.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Item 2 is 21 VA 003. This is a variance to reduce a side and a rear setback to convert a garage into a second living dwelling unit on the property. On the agenda, we have before you today to continue this item to August 5th to your next Zoning Board of Adjustment meeting. We've been working with the applicant and his consultant on securing approval of a retaining wall that exists directly to the north of this dwelling. That information came in on Friday, but we weren't prepared to bring everything forward today. So we will have that revised staff report to you and make a presentation at your August 5th Zoning Board of Adjustment meeting. We would recommend that you continue this item to that meeting.
Okay, thank you, Vicki. Do we have a motion? Okay, we have a motion from Vince, a second from Mike Kwasny to move it to the August 5th meeting. Sure.
Out of curiosity, does this fall under the accessory dwelling unit criteria?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Vicki?
Not in this instance. It's the property is zoned and is of sufficient size for a duplex, and it's being designed accordingly.
Thank you. That answers my question.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? No? Yes, Vicki?
We're still having technical difficulties, so if we just wait a little bit before we launch the Planning Commission meeting.
Okay, thank you, Vicki. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Any discussion items for the zoning board or staff items other than technical difficulties? Look for a motion to adjourn the zoning board.
So moved.
Got a motion from Karen, second from Mike Kwasny. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries at 7:05. Alrighty, we're just gonna sit tight for a few more minutes for the Planning Commission so you guys can all see what's up there.
lights are supposed to dim and all that. The light on the projector turned red. Went red again. Red blinking. I don't know what that means. It should be green.
All right, we're going to wait another 5 minutes to see if they can get this figured out, and if not, we'll just commence.
Big old power surge here yesterday may have fried it. Yeah. Now, there was one yesterday that it hit right by the building. Everything flickered. I think it may have fried one of our laptops. Yeah. Like when I was living in Denver, I was looking out my office window one time during a storm, and lightning hit over here, and like the ground over here started glowing, like it came up. It was really cool. Yeah.
Good morning, folks. It sounds like we've had a power surge at this building, and so a couple of the laptops and such have had problems, and the overhead projector might be having problems too from the same power surge. So we're going to continue on with the Planning Commission meeting, just so that we can all get on with our days. We will now commence the City of Rapid City Planning Commission meeting for July 22nd, 2021. We have the same two housekeeping issues. If any member of the audience wishes to speak to an item on the Planning Commission agenda, there are speaker request forms on the table along the left wall. It's not too late if you'd like to get a speaker request form in. And also, please check your cell phones and make sure they're off or on silent. Items 1 through 5 have been placed on the consent calendar and may be approved as a group. Action will be taken on all consent items in accordance with staff's recommendation by a single vote. Any item may be removed from the consent calendar by any planning commissioner, staff member, or audience member for separate consideration at this time. The findings of the Planning Commission are recommendations to the City Council. The City Council will make the final decision. Are there any items 1 through 5 that staff would like to remove from the consent calendar? Are there any items 1 through 5 that the Planning Commission would like to have removed from the consent calendar for separate consideration? No. Are there any items 1 through 5 that any audience member would like to have removed from the consent calendar for separate consideration? Okay. The chair would then entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar items 1 through 5 in accordance with staff recommendations. Okay. Mike Gallagher made a motion to approve. I'll give it to Vince this time. Vince seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay. Motion passes. Item 5.
Madam Chair,
Oh, I'm sorry, 6, item 6.
and we're going to get creative here because those that are here for this item need to see the presentation, so you have options. We can have you come over to the side where you can see it up on a screen up here. Some of you can even stand behind Carl. He's going to be pulling it up on the laptop monitor or the monitor on the lectern, and you'll be able to see it there. So let's just see where you can see it and get you moved around, and then he'll start his presentation.
I would think back right in there would be even better, I think, in front of the dais there. Yeah.
All right, can you all see the image on the screen?
Lights.
Lights.
All right, this is item number 6, file number 21UR011, a conditional use permit request to allow an oversized garage. This is located just north of 4305 Sturgis Road. 4305 is this structure right here. The applicant owns both this property and this property, and he's proposing to build a shouse, or part workshop, part house, shop house, on the property that you see highlighted there. So the property you see that's highlighted is a wooded 1.33 acre lot. As I mentioned, the applicant lives to the south, and he's proposing to build a house on top of a garage to house his daughter's family. The proposed garage, it has a footprint of 3,100 square feet, which is in excess of the allowed 1,500 square feet, which is why this conditional use permit is being requested. He's proposing to use the proposed garage for parking, storage, welding, blacksmithing, woodworking, machining, restoration of antique equipment, and for a model train layout. Here we have the zoning map. The property is zoned as low-density residential. To the east, we have property that's zoned as a cement plant, and to the west, we have property that's zoned as medium-density residential. Properties to the north and south are both zoned as low-density residential. The future land use here is low-density neighborhood. And as mentioned earlier, this property is located on Sturgis Road. Sturgis Road is a principal arterial street. So here we have a map of the subdivision. So the applicant lives right here on lot 10 and is proposing to build the new structure here on lot 9. So there's a shared driveway between lots 10, lots 9, and lots 11. There's an existing access easement right here for lot 11, and one of the stipulations of approval is for another access easement to be provided so that lot 9 will have legal access to Sturgis Road. So here we have the site plan. So this is outside the area of city water and city sewer. So they're proposing to put in a septic tank and a drain field. The house and garage will be facing to the south toward where the applicant currently lives. The driveway, you can see, kind of loops through the property like that, and that's why we would require the access easement. That's why the city would require the access easement through the property to the south. Here we have the floor plan for the proposed garage. As I mentioned, this is 3,100 square feet. So this area is the garage. There are 4 garage doors, so this is a 4-car garage. This area would be the workshop. And then directly on top of it would be the dwelling. So this is a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom dwelling with a kitchen, library, rec room, and living space. This is a drawing that the applicant provided showing what the building will look like. It's going to have, he proposes to have a dark blue steel siding with tan steel trim and copper-colored steel roofing. And here's a more detailed look at the elevations of the building, giving you the measurements and a more detailed look at the proposed garage doors. So here are some site photos. This first site photo is looking to the south from where the proposed structure will be located, and this is looking toward the applicant's house. So this right here is the applicant's house. This is looking toward the north, toward a neighboring property. This is looking to the west from the structure. And this is looking to the east from the structure. So this is a look at the driveway. This is looking at the front of the applicant's house, and you can see that the driveway veers off here toward that neighboring property where the proposed structure will be located. And this is looking at the driveway from Sturgis Road. This is Sturgis Road looking north from the property, looking south, looking east, and looking west toward the property itself. So finally, staff is recommending approval with stipulations. So those stipulations are to allow a oversized garage of 3,100 square feet in lieu of the maximum allowed 1,500 square feet. The next stipulation is prior to issuance of a building permit, they have to record an access easement across the neighboring property. The third, the oversized garage shall be constructed with the same design elements shown on the applicant's submitted elevations. The fourth, the conditional use permit shall allow an oversized garage on the property. It's not allowed to be used for commercial purposes. Any change in use that is a permitted use in the low-density residential district shall require a building permit. Any expansion to the garage or change in uses, conditional use in the low-density residential district shall require the review and approval of a major amendment to the conditional use permit. And then the fifth stipulation is that since welding will occur within the garage, there needs to be a fire suppression system. So these stipulations are to ensure that the residential character of the neighborhood is maintained and to ensure that this isn't for any commercial or agricultural or industrial use. And it's also to mitigate any negative impacts. So with that, are there any questions?
I don't really have it up on my, nothing's lighting up, but it looks like Eric Heikes has a question for staff.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So 2 questions. Could you overview again the relationship between the primary dwelling and the second dwelling? The drawings are very helpful, but a little hard to fully comprehend. And then secondly, could you describe the fire suppression that's required in one of your stipulations? Is that like sprinklers or what are we talking about there?
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
So we'll let Tim get that second question, but as far as your first question goes, so the applicant owns 2 lots.
2 lots, okay.
His home is currently on the southern lot. He will remain living on that property. He is building a home on his other lot of separate legal description for his daughter, but he will be the one that will be using the garage below the residence of his daughter and her family.
2 lots, 2 structures. Thank you. That answers my question.
And then defer to Tim, please.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, it's actually kind of twofold on the fire suppression. It is residential fire sprinkler protection is what would be utilized throughout the structure. So in this particular case, there's no water out in that area, so we don't have any fire flows available to us. So that's actually the primary reason for supporting this is with the use of residential fire sprinkler protection. And also obviously then the welding and the other activities below the residence itself increases the likelihood of an incident. So.
Thank you, Tim.
Okay, do we have any more questions for staff specifically? Okay, Haven.
Yes, just to refresh my recollection here, if a conditional use permit is granted, does that come up for review at some time?
Madam Chair.
And go ahead, Vicki.
No, they do not by standard come up for review. I think in the 26 years I've been here, we've reviewed a conditional use permit twice because the use was one that we needed to determine if it was going to impact the neighborhood. But once approved, if a complaint is filed, we can bring a revocation of the conditional use permit back to the Planning Commission. As an example, if we receive complaints that the structure was being used by a future owner, and because of the size of the garage, he was using it for commercial purposes, we could bring a revocation of that conditional use permit back. And in this case, where the structure is built, it becomes somewhat problematic, but it would limit what they could do within the garage area.
Do we have any more questions for staff from the Planning Commission? Okay, Karen?
I have a question as far as the building itself. Since the garage is going to be in the bottom floor and in a home up above, are there anything that has to be done extraordinarily because of the garage as far as, fumes coming up to the second floor or the fire protection from welding that goes to the second floor? Are there any extraordinary things that the building person will have to do when they're building that garage?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Vicki?
So many, many garages across town have living quarters above, many residential structures have living quarters above their garages. And as long as they're meeting building code, and I don't know what those are, but we do have in place building code for that, and they'll need to meet that separation, but nothing beyond that.
Even with if there's a lot of welding and that kind of thing, which is extraordinary?
Again, the reason why the sprinkler system is required.
Okay, thank you.
And do you have any comments on that, Tim?
Thank you. Vicki handled it very well overall. The building codes are pretty specific to the separations that are required between the garage space and the living area itself. Also, things like the egress or access to that second level will be separated appropriately from the garage space. The welding and other events are common uses for such spaces, so the code does look at that. And so you'll end up with probably a 1-hour floor assembly between the garage space and above. It may not specifically address air quality or anything like that, or ventilation, but it does require certain construction assemblies to separate those spaces appropriately. And then the residential fire sprinkler protection, which will be extended to that space as well, above and below, augments that safety provision.
Thanks, Tim.
You're welcome.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Vicki?
So when we were out there taking site photos, it came to our attention that there are some vehicles parked on the property on grass. Some of them, it was unclear if they were operable or not. And the applicants this morning explained that that's one of the reasons why they do want this structure with the garage, so that they can get those inside that building and get them operable or work on them, because that's part of what that they do. In addition, we do have a neighbor here that is the third lot that's included in this access easement, and there is some concern that as this easement loops around, that one point of access is currently blocked. And so we would ask the applicants that they remove that so that they can get back to that part of their lot as well. Before we will issue a building permit, that easement needs to be submitted to us for review and approval, showing that this northern lot where the second home would be constructed on the applicant's properties, his 2 lots, we would review that, and we would want to see these issues resolved before we issue that building permit.
Okay, thank you, Vicki. And Kelly, I think you had some questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have 2 questions, more technical and process than anything. First question is, are the adjoining properties on private wells with the drain field septic tank system? Second question is, and this is just for my own reference, who decides that the private well drain field can support a structure like this? Is that a city function, or are the applicants required to go get an engineering report and bring back data to support the design of that drain field and septic tank and well?
Madam Chair, we'll defer to Todd in engineering.
Okay, go ahead, Todd.
Yeah, the lots are sized appropriately for a drain field and a well. The city would review the septic design, and the well would be by the state.
All state, okay. The adjoining properties are on private wells, or do they have city water? I might not know.
I would assume we don't have water out there, so yeah, we don't keep records of the wells. That's the state.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Do we have any other questions? I have one from Mike Kwasny.
On the access, the driveway, I guess it looks like there's a lot, that's a busy driveway, and now you have 3 properties that are using that driveway. Is that something that needs to be addressed, or it seems like it'd be an obvious now with this to put in that driveway, although I don't know if you want a lot of entryways onto Sturgis Road. It just seems like that driveway is going to get awful busy with a 3rd property. And I don't know if that's paved or gravel. I didn't go out and look at this site, so.
Madam Chair. So based on our IDCM, our Infrastructure Design Criteria Manual, an easement can serve up to 4 lots. So this would be 3 lots with this additional residence. So that would meet our requirements. The state would much prefer that we allow this design than have another access point onto Sturgis. I would assume there's also some topographic constraints that might not support that there be separate approaches. And then the first 50 feet of the driveway on this 3rd lot has to be paved, but from the pictures, it appeared that the current driveway is hard surfaced.
Any additional questions for staff from the Planning Commission? Okay, I have a speaker request form from Doris Ann Werlinger. Would she like to come up and speak? And please state your name again and then your address.
Doris Ann Werlinger, and I'm 4295 Sturgis Road. We're the neighbors that are south of the so-called property that is being in question. And the only thing I have a question about is the easement. Our property is adjoining theirs, and they use our property, our driveway, and they have a driveway of their own. And also in the back area, there's between their carport and our little storage shed, they have blocked that so we cannot get back to our back part of our property. And if we had a fire, there's no way anybody could get back to that property in order to get the fire out in our house or our property in the back side. So that's my only concern. I wish them well. I wish no regrets or anything like that, but I'm just kind of concerned about that. Not concerned about the driveway being used because they have workers and they have five drivers, so the driveway's got to be used. But they have a paved one. Ours is a gravel, and it does stir up the dust. And I would prefer that they use their own driveway. Thank you.
Okay, Steph, can you address her comments?
So again, when that easement comes in, it's something that we will review and approve, and if they are using her property to expand the use of that easement, then that's something we'll look at to ensure that it meets with that property owner's review and approval as well. The fact that her driveway is gravel is legal non-conforming. She does not have to improve that surface unless she were to come in for a building permit, and then she would have to pave the first 50 feet of her driveway as well. So again, that's why we say before we'll issue a building permit that the vehicles and such that are parked that are precluding her from getting to the backside of her property must be removed, and the easement must be reviewed and approved by the city and recorded. And again, it's going to take all 3 properties and those owners to facilitate that easement to ensure that it's meeting everyone's needs. So we'll kind of facilitate that at our end as well, and that will all be required to be completed before we issue a building permit.
Okay, thank you, Vicki. I don't have any other speaker request forms. Are there any questions? We've got one from Vince.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let me understand or clarification on how the owner's property has been blocked. And I think you may have explained it, Vicki, but that's the part I'm still trying to figure out. Was that the vehicles that blocked her from getting to her property? Okay. All right, that's all I really wanted to do is clarify that point. Thank you.
Do we have any other
Madam
questions?
Chair, the applicant is present and he requested to be able to speak.
Oh, thank you. I don't have a speaker request form from him, but I'm happy to have him come up, and please state your name and your address and come up and say your piece.
I thought we were a part of the process anyhow, so cool.
Oh.
Yes. Fred Hilpert, 4305 Sturgis Road, which
Thank you.
is Lot 10, which is just to the south of Lot 9, which is the property we're going to build the structure on, the residence. On the first question I have, clarification, is the fire sprinkler system, does that have to be water-based, or can we use chemicals to suppress it? And how hard do we have to suppress the system? I mean, how hard do we have to be prepared to suppress the fire?
It would be what we refer to as a 13D residential system, so there'd be a small tank and a pump assembly. It's a relatively small volume of water, single head at a time. It has to be water-based, though.
Water-based and
Water-based, correct.
What was that terminology you used for the fire suppression system?
It's called a 13D NFPA, which is National Fire Protection Association 13D.
And that's the system that you require?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
and you said, is that supposed to be for the first floor or for the second floor or for both?
Both.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
There was a concern about air quality. The International Building Code, which I believe Rapid City follows, is not, air exchange rates are not very well defined for a garage. So what we plan on doing and what is built into the structure, or what is designed into the structure, is we have an additional door, which is a large door. It's a sectional door, it's not intended as a garage door for exactly that purpose. It's a large opening, and we plan on having fans there to be able to excavate the air out of it and exchange it at a rapid rate so that we don't overcome the people. So, and when we're not operating, we won't have the fans on, and the people will be able to use the upstairs. So we plan on exchanging the air enough so that fumes don't get upstairs. And we are also designed into it is going to be a foam insulation, which has a really good sealing quality, and we're going to spray that on the whole envelope. Matter of fact, on all surfaces of the exterior of the the interior surface of the exterior shell of the building, and also on the bottom of the mezzanine floor, which forms the second floor. The staff did bring up, and Carl did take a picture. If you'll notice, there are some vehicles that are on our property that are not operational. They're antiques. One vehicle that, some vehicles that he did not show was we have a 1928 Chevy that we plan on restoring. It's covered right now with a tarp. And we have a 1927 International that we plan on restoring. And inside the garage of the building that's behind the mother-in-law suite, there's a 1907 International auto buggy that we are restoring. And then inside the carport, there's a bunch of hit-and-miss engines that we plan on restoring. And the reason we're building this is we want to put all that stuff inside and protect it and fix it up and have a good time with them. So the easement is a process, and we are very aware of Doris Ann's concern. Actually, the easement reads that the easement is a two-part easement. Can you pull up the Sturgis Road, or pull up Sturgis Road? And can we get the magic drawing thing?
Yeah, just use your finger.
Okay, so on this,
You can use your finger on here.
up there. So anyhow, the bottom, this part right here. Oops. Well, I'm not very good at this. And this part right here are, can you redo that so that
Yeah.
this? Okay, can we blow this up here a little bit?
Oh. It works better with your finger anyways.
Okay. Whoops. Try it again. Sorry,
Zoom in.
folks. Okay. So this part right here, and this part right here,
Here, I can zoom in.
okay. The verbiage on the easement says that the easement is there to allow access for the existing gravel driveway. And the easement was made back before either property owners owned their current property, and it kept evolving. So, I mean, the easement did evolve, but basically the owners went through. So the easement that accesses the properties from Sturgis is on our property, and then there's a triangle that belongs to Doris Ann's property, and the easement basically says the easement is there to allow access to the existing gravel driveway. So it's a fuzzy definition of what is the existing gravel driveway, so the driveway is sort of defined by each property. The access off of Sturgis comes off of on our property, then swings around onto her property, and then swings back onto our property. So she is concerned about access to the rear of her property, and technically the existing gravel driveway doesn't go back there, so we're sort of going like this with each other. So that what I'm trying to say is that the easement is not a total access easement. It's there to access the existing gravel driveway. And I didn't bring the easement with us, but when staff looks at it, we'll be glad to bring the easement in so you guys can review it and see what's going on. The other thing with the easement is, the way I understand in Rapid City is that there's usually two types of easement. One is an easement for access, and one is an easement, a utility easement. This is only for access easement, and is not a utility easement.
Mr. Hilbert?
Yes.
Sorry, can you get closer to the mic?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
The next one is, pardon me, is Sturgis Road a state road, or is it a county road, or is it a city road? A state? So I'm not sure I'm not sure exactly about the how that process goes, but it would be nice for Lot 9, which is the property we're talking about, to have its own access to Sturgis Road, and that's the direction that we're going to try to move on, but we have not discussed with the state or with staff here about getting that, but that's the direction we would like to head. Of course, the gentleman over here said that, yes, there may be a constraint of how far the state wants to have access to Sturgis Road go. So that's the direction we would like to go. The property, could you bring up the one that shows the road that goes, splits? Okay, so as we look at this picture, the driveway, this is paved all the way from Sturgis Road all the way up to the garage door you see on the left, and that is that house you're looking at is the house that we live in, and is in Lot 10. The road that goes off to the right, and you see some dirt that's been moved back there, is paved all the way back to the back, and will be turn in and use that into the garage complex that's on the first story of the building we plan on building. So it is paved, and so that driveway system will only be an access easement. Currently, we're going to have this access easement that will be between Lot 9 and Lot 10, and will not impact Doris Ann's property, except for the fact that we're all using the same entrance. Just below this, in other words, where I'm standing, the road splits and goes onto Doris Ann's property, and then swings around and allows access to her garage that's in the rear, and then comes back on our property to terminate. Okay, so that's the access.
And I do want to point out that we're not really considering the easements here on this board. It might be part of our consideration, but the only thing we're deciding on is the conditional use permit for an oversized garage. And my understanding is that staff will be working with both you and the other party to work out the easement issues.
Sweet, okay. The only thing that I had to say about it is that what I way understand is that our footprint of the building, the garage slash oversized garage slash the accessory units, the footprint is not going to change. In other words, it's all within the footprint of the building, so we're not adding another garage to ask for an oversized garage. So, Connie, you have anything to say? Shut up. Okay, thank you. Thanks very much, folks.
Thank you, Mr. Hilbert. Okay, do we have any additional questions from Planning Commission or staff? I've got one from Mike Kwasny.
I just wanted to make a comment. Thank you, Madam Chair. It's always better when people that live next to one another can figure out the problems and fix them, and we don't have to have laws that make it so. The city will definitely be involved and make sure everybody is safe and taken care of, but it's always better if neighbors get along. So that's our hope. So thank you.
Okay, Eric Hikas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So out of curiosity and clarification, an additional approach onto Sturgis Road, that would involve the DOT and Stacy E. Barnett, correct? And those are not always a given. Sometimes you get them, sometimes you do not get them. And they're also highly regulated, as I understand, for separation and visibility, that sort of thing. So that's what I thought. Thank you. I guess I answered my own question. You nodded, so you verified. Thanks.
Okay. Anything else from the Planning Commission on this item? Any other staff comments or audience member comments on this issue? All right, well then I'll look for a motion. Okay, Karen made the motion to approve item 6 with stipulations. And I'm sorry, was it Vince? Was it John? Oh, Eric, okay. All right, any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? All righty, it passes with 0 nays. Do we have any discussion items from staff?
Just one. So Wade and I have been working on a draft ordinance for medical cannabis. I did have an opportunity to meet with the city council, or 7 members of the council, and we went through a working session on where it should be allowed, where it should be conditional. The number is really mandated more by the licensing. How many licenses are we going to issue? And that will just be a council decision. That won't come before the Planning Commission. I then also took it to Coffee with Planners. We had great input. It just seems like everyone's lined up with what we were thinking. We could have a working session with Planning Commission, or do you feel comfortable if we just walk in here and present it to you at a Planning Commission meeting? I guess if we did have a working session, would you be able to come? And if not, I think we'll do a pretty thorough job presenting it to you. And it is very straightforward, and we just haven't had a lot of people pushing back from where we thought it should be originally. So it's fallen into place quite nicely.
Do we have any comments on the Planning Commission? Any preferences either way between working session or just a presentation here? Comment from Vince?
Yeah, I went to the coffees and listened to to our neighbors that had their comments, and yeah, I'm agreeing with Vicki, but I'd be perfectly willing to attend a working session if we decide that.
And you don't have to decide today. I'll send an email out, and then you guys can let me know, and if it is the majority do want one, then we'll find a date that we can meet. But Wade and I would like to move this along to be ready so that in the fall, when state legislation finishes up what they're doing on the card holders and what happens inside the facilities, we're ready to go as well.
Karen?
Thank you. I have a question, Vicki. Does the city council vote on the number after we vote on what the legislation is going to be?
So that is something that Wade and I, we meet in just a little bit here. If this meeting keeps going, we're going to have to push our meeting back. But that is something that we need to have some discussion on. We certainly don't want a dispensary on every corner. We don't want to zone that in. We want to limit it by the number of licensing, similar to how we do packaged liquor, on sale, casinos, that type of thing. It's based on our population, and it's a percentage of that. And what that percentage is, that discussion with council has not been conducted yet. I would assume that when we bring forward that ordinance for your consideration, we'll have had at least some preliminary discussions with council as to what the number should be in the city.
Any other questions or comments on this or preferences? My preference is for a presentation here at Planning Commission, but I did go to the Coffee with Planners, and I really appreciated the work that you guys put in, and seeking alternative sources of information. I guess that has a, but seeking information from industry and people who have had a lot of experience drafting legislation and city ordinances about this, and I really, you guys do such a great job of looking around and trying to catch the issues before they happen. So, but yeah, my preference would be just at the Planning Commission meeting.
Okay. Thank you.
Do we have any other discussion items from Planning Commissioner staff? Oh, Eric.
So I'm using my microphone a lot today. I'm trying not to waste anyone's time, but I've been thinking a lot about our staff and planning department here at the community. A lot of us are in business, and we see a lot of resources brought to bear on things. We do ratios like, a senior civil engineer can execute about $350,000 to $450,000 worth of work in a year. An entry-level landscape architect can manage about 150. I'm speaking directly to you, staff and planning. I think you are absolutely overwhelmed in the amount of work you're doing, and I think the amount of resources we have here for the amount of growing work that's being asked and brought to bear. We're in a huge building boom right now, and you are on a skeleton crew. I don't know, I don't make policy, but I sure would make suggestions and recommendations that we need to fix that. We need to get you enough resources to do the work that is expected of you. I know that Vicki works a ridiculous amount of time. I know this is a big part of her life, but I think it's just too much what's being asked of our staff here. And if it's an issue of dollars, I understand the whole policy part of it, but that's not an excuse. We need to commit more resources to the department here to be able to do its job monetarily, staff, human resources. It's almost kind of a joke to me. How much longer can we go on with the small group that we have? I know you guys are like superheroes, but at some point we need to change that. I think now is the time for us to start talking about that in our community. So I don't know if this is the place for it, but I'm going to be the one to start this awareness. So it's just not fair or not in reality for this group to be able to do the work it's expected to do with this small amount of resources. So I'm going to put that so it's on the record. Let's make some changes here so that we can do a better job of planning our community. And let's bring in talent and let's pay them appropriately so that we can hire good people. enough with the conservative bull crap. You know, let's get some money to bear on this stuff, right? Let's make this work. Thank you.
Hopefully, City Council or whomever hears you. Vince.
I second that. Actually, let me add on to that, because Rachel pointed out a good point in that our council needs to understand the amount of effort and work that the staff has put in this building and around the city. And we certainly don't want to berate these employees. I understand there was an employee that was felt put upon so hard and bad by one of our council members that she had to quit her job. This has got to stop, and I agree with you. Thanks, Eric, for saying it. Thanks, Rachel.
Any other comments? Or okay. All right. Mike made a motion to adjourn, and he's okay. And that was Vince. Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned at 8 o'clock.